All right. So not how you want to play on a Sunday. Obviously, the Detroit Lions lose 27-24 against the Minnesota Vikings, and I got a lot of thoughts because I was thinking about this during the game. You know, this was probably the worst special teams game the Detroit Lions have played in quite some time, and I think that block field goal was put an explanation point on what the Detroit Lions were actually doing. Because when you think about the Detroit Lions and you think about Dave Phipp, their special teams coordinator, they usually don't play as bad. And it's been a constant theme where there's been a team that's been able, like Tampa Bay got a good run back and they made the most of it. But today it was twice, and then it was the block field goal. And you just can't have that because what it does is it puts you behind the eight ball. Then you got to play from you're basically playing in plus territory, and they have every shot to beat you at that point. So that's what I think about that. But overall, this game was, and I agree with what Coach Campbell said in his press game post game conference. This was the worst game the Detroit Lions have played in a long time. Like, no cap. This was the worst game that the Detroit Lions have played in quite some time. I can't remember a time where the Detroit Lions played as bad, as consistently bad as they did today. Period. I saw missed tackles from Aiden Hutchinson, who just got his massive deal, which happens. It happens, but you can't miss tackles. You made Aaron Jones, who is an older back, look like he was in his prime again. I seen St. Brown drop balls. That's not typical. I've seen plenty of missed tackles throughout the whole team. I saw Jared Goff not recognize where he should have went with the ball, and he missed a throw that he could have made that could have been a huge portion of the game. I watched special teams, which I don't think is ever a huge issue. They're giving up big plays in a special team, the kick return game. They block field goal. We don't see much of that in Detroit. That block field goal was huge because if you look at the score, 24-27, that was a huge point in the game. It just goes to say this was one of the worst games that I've seen a Dan Campbell-led team do. And if you go back to the pregame podcast, the game preview podcast I did with James, we talked about this was going to be a game that they should have won. They should win, right? Even NFL.com said they should have won. Period. This is all the picks before the game. So you come out and you play as bad as you do against the Minnesota Vikings, against JJ McCarthy, and I know that JJ McCarthy has talent. But him coming into Detroit, him getting some short fields, because if you look at the statistics, there was total plays was 59-62. Detroit had 62. The Minnesota Vikings had 59. The Vikings only had 258 yards of total yards, okay? They had 4.4 yards per play. The reason that the Detroit Lions lost was because of them giving Minnesota short fields. Period. End of story. And when you look at the drive charts, like early in the game, right? You look at, they only had to go 36 yards for a touchdown, that first touchdown, right? On the scoring plays, it was huge. So they had their longest drive was 7 plays, 64 yards in the first quarter. They had another drive that was 41 yards. That was a field goal. And they just the longest drive they had all game was 64 yards. So when you think about an offense like not being able to go the distance, therefore 64 yards is their longest drive of the game. They beat you 27-24, and this was not a great game by any stretch of the imagination. The Lions had 5.7 yards per pass. The Vikings had 3.9. You don't win in the NFL with 3.9 yards per pass. Even with the Lions running game being absolute ass today, 3.3 per rush, that's not good enough. The Vikings had 142 yards rushing, and that's something that is against the grain because when we talk about the Detroit Lions moving forward, their rush defense has been a very, very good portion of their team, right? And for them to give up 142 yards to Jordan Mason and JJ McCarthy and Aaron Jones, when you got running backs on the schedule, let's go through the schedule. Saquon Barkley, you got Josh Jacobs, you got Kyron Williams, you got those two clowns that you lost to today. So all I'm saying is not not a good not a good loss for the Detroit Lions. And people can sit here and they can make every excuse that they want. This was just an absolute terrible game. And I agree with Coach Campbell that after the bye, he said we did everything we needed to do to lose that game. I didn't have them ready coming out of the bye. He's exactly right, because they should never have lost this game. Never should have lost this game. Their own inflicted pain was put on by them. It wasn't the Vikings. The Vikings, they were not a sufficient team. They did not go up and down the field and just score on you at nauseum. Their best drive was 64 yards. That was their longest drive the whole game. When you put that in contention with the Detroit Lions, they had 72. That was their one touchdown drive. 35 was their shortest. They also had 69. You gave this game to the Vikings. Period. End of story. The Lions gave this game to the Vikings. End of story. The short fields, not good. The mistakes, not good. The sacks, I mean, we're gonna go when you talk about sacks, I mean, some of these are on Jared Goff. Sacks, let me see, sacks yards. Both teams had 5 sacks, but I think Detroit's sacks were more noticeable. So there you go. In the red zone, Detroit was 1 for 3. They were 3 for 5. So again, there was a couple plays where Detroit put them in the red zone. Like their special teams put Minnesota in the red zone. Like I said, for the people that are just joining, 64 yards was the longest drive for the Minnesota Vikings all game. All game. 64 yards. Detroit had 2 that were more than that. And that's if you're making a guy like JJ McCarthy with a short field, that's a quarterback's best friend. You give any quarterback a short field, they're going to burn you. I don't care who they are. I don't care if they're JJ McCarthy. I don't care if they're Caleb Williams. I don't care if they're Jake Browning. They'll burn you. They will definitely burn you. Just not a good game. And Detroit won time of possession. So there again lies the issue. You gave this game to Minnesota. And I look at there's one statistic that is glaring out here. Penalties from first down. Detroit had 1. The Vikings had 5 first downs off penalties. So if you want a reason why the Detroit Lions lost today, let's break it down just for a short piece of it. You gave the Vikings short fields. You gave them first downs on penalties. You gave them easy drives with their short field, and they made the most of it. And give the Vikings credit, because they came out here and they played a very, very good game, and they beat Detroit the way that they should. But if I'm Dan Campbell, if I'm any of the Lions, I'm not happy. I'm just not happy. And I know there's a lot of fans that are not happy. We'll get to them in a minute with the comment section. So if you're new to the channel, you can put comments on Facebook or YouTube. Our YouTube is JC Sports Detroit for all the people that are listening on X. So you can go to JC Sports Detroit and we'll read your comments there. We could have interaction. But that's it. That's the name of the game. So here's Coach Campbell. I want to play this for you because this is an important part about what he was trying to say about this loss, and I'll play it for you.
Those guys over there, man, they had a good plan, came in, they executed, made the plays they needed to, and that's credit to that team. As far as us, we did everything we needed to do to lose that game. We made every critical error you needed to at the right time to lose it. Perfect storm. When you don't play well in all three phases, that falls on the head coach. That's me. Credit those guys over there, man. They had a good plan, came in, they executed, made the plays they needed to, and
So you just seen Dan Campbell talk about the whole loss, and he just said exactly what I said. They beat themselves. So that is what it is. One thing to note from coach's press conference today. Christian Mahogany will be down for a while, Dan Campbell said. He said he did not leave the window open for Christian Mahogany to return this season. He did leave the window open, maybe late December, he said. So that is a big issue there. And with the trade deadline looming, that could be something that the Lions go to explore. Obviously, there's been issues on the offensive line in terms of the way that they've been able to play, but all year we've been talking about third down efficiency, and that's exactly what Rude today. Detroit ranked 22nd in third down efficiency. Obviously didn't improve on that mark today, but that is what it is. So it's going to be interesting trade deadline. Deadline is Tuesday at 4:00. So we'll see what the Detroit Lions will do at that point. But it was interesting hearing Coach Campbell talk. The injuries to the offensive linemen were huge. And it's just got to keep it going, man. And I think what Goff said here, I'm gonna play it for you because I think this is important to know. I don't think this is gonna linger with the Detroit Lions, but we'll see what happens here. But here is Jared Goff on moving on from today's result.
It sucks. We'll move on. We'll move on to Washington and try to win that one, and hopefully we do, and we'll be ready to go. We'll respond. It's what we do best, and I think Dan said it in there. I don't know if he said it to you guys, but a little adversity at this point of the season isn't always the worst thing for you, and I can say that if you use it correctly and move forward correctly, but who knows? Maybe we look back on this moment as a turning point for us, and it'll only be that if we make it that, though. Yeah, it sucks.
So you heard Jared Goff there, and he was basically saying, hopefully this is a learning lesson. It has to be a learning lesson. It just has to. I think this was a game that mirrored the Houston game from last year, where they had a terrible game. In Houston, they were fortunate to win that football game, but here they were not fortunate to win the football game. So sometimes those things, they come back, and it is what it is. Today, the Green Bay Packers lost, so it doesn't put you behind the 8 ball. The Indianapolis Colts lost. They had one loss. The NFL is a fickle system, and if you don't come to play every game, you usually lose. It doesn't matter who you go up against. I mean, the Packers were going up against the Panthers. Like, you expect the Panthers to get absolutely whopped, especially at Lambeau Field. So it is what it is. But I think this could be a learning lesson for the Detroit Lions. I think this could be something that they bring with them after all the things that happened today. You're hoping that this is the start of, let's go change some things. Let's figure out some things. Maybe this is a mea culpa for Johnny Morton. He did not look good. Johnny Morton did not look good at all. And I think that's a bigger issue that I have with the Lions right now, because as we look at the rankings and all that jazz, this was before the game, but you could see their top 10 in everything except third down offense. So I just look at it like this. The Lions have to be more efficient on third down. And there's a couple plays where I thought they had the chance to make the first down, but they're doing a screen, they're doing some offset run. Like, I'm a Michigan State fan and a Tennessee Volunteer fan. And when I watch Johnny Morton call the offense, it's similar to the way that Josh Heupel at Tennessee calls his offense. And you put it together, like, they could be explosive down the field, but those third down decisions and where you're going to pass to, what you're going to do on third down, they just don't seem to be clicking. And I think Johnny Moe has got to go back to the lab. like you said in this clip.
I just love the whole aspect of just sitting in my laboratory by myself and, trying to dissect the defense. I think that's fun.
Well, go sit back in your laboratory and dissect the defense for damn sakes. Okay? Like what he's doing isn't working. Third down is not working. But I'll tell you this. The Lions cannot have as many third downs as they had in today's game. They had 17 attempted third downs. 17. You're not going to win football games when you have 17 attempted third downs. That's ridiculous, to be honest. That's a very high number for as many plays as you had. That 17, 62. You had 62 plays and 17 third downs. Put that together. This offense needs to be more explosive. And that's on Johnny Morton. And I look at this offense and I go, you got Gibbs, you got Laporta, you got Sam Brown, Jameson Williams, Isaac Tafa. There's no reason, and I've said this for years, okay? There's no reason that anybody who calls this offense can't call a top 5 offense. Like, they are still top 5 in a majority of the categories, points. They're top 5 in red zone efficiency. But that's a given. With the talent that you have on this roster, that's a given that you should be top 5. A given. Now, the rest, I mean, you should be top 5 in pretty much everything. You should be top 5 in total offense, top 5 in rushing, and top 5 in passing. But for some reason, under Johnny Morton, for whatever reason it is, they're not top 5s. And I look, go back to the lab again. Johnny.
I just love the whole aspect of just sitting in my laboratory by myself.
Go by yourself. Go sit in the lab. Have a big pastrami sandwich. I know that you look like a guy who likes a pastrami sandwich, and just figure it out. Figure it out. Because this whole third down screens, delayed handoffs, it's the same thing that I don't understand. I know you guys don't understand. And this was Johnny Mo earlier about all the weapons that he has. Listen to this guy and then figure out what the hell are you doing with all these weapons?
The one thing that's impressed me is all these weapons. Man, I'm just trying to get the guy's balls as much as I can. But I just think the overall, the grit, their attitude, because it's been hard mentally. I want to see where they're at, and they've responded. We got a smart, tough football.
That was from the Detroit Lions in training camp. So there you go. I mean, it just, he says he got all these weapons. He likes to go to the lab. He likes to think of things. It's time to go to the lab, think of things, because what this team is doing right now on offense is not good enough. It's just not. So that is where we are right now. That is where the Detroit Lions are right now. And they need to get it together for sure. All right, let me look and see if there's any more stuff on the Twitter sphere, because I'd like to look on the Twitter sphere to see if there's anything that's really coming out. And you know what? I see this all over Facebook, all over X, all over everywhere. They're like, "Oh, I miss Ben Johnson." This is how good teams operate. You're gonna miss a good coach. I mean, I had my foibles about Ben Johnson. I thought sometimes he got too cute, but I think Johnny Mo gets cute too. I think a lot of these offensive coordinators get too cute. But the reality of the situation is Morton was here when we had a good offense, and he needs to figure it out. And it's going to be interesting to see what he does to figure this out, because I'll tell you this right now. From my perspective, this is a very easy thing to figure out. Very easy thing to figure out. You need a third wide receiver. I look at many games that the Detroit Lions play, and they have a lot of big formations. They have 2 tight ends out there. Let's get more wide receivers out there. Speed and space. Gibbs relies on it. Montgomery relies on it. When you have tight ends out there, I know you're trying to protect Taylor Decker or whatever the case may be, but you have to just start slinging the ball around. Jared Goff can do that. So I think that is the most important part right there too as well. Let's go to some comments. I feel bad for his TA to get his first INT, and it's a loss. Ugh. Yeah, it was great interception. Great headsy play by TA right there, man. That was a great headsy play by TA. Just a great play, in my opinion, because he reached in there, grabbed the ball, and I think that's something that Calvin Shepard does right. See, this is what the difference between Calvin Shepard and Johnny Morton, okay? You could see Calvin Shepard's defense is extremely, extremely well coached. They're well coached. Calvin Shepard has a well coached defense. You watch them, even with the injuries that they had last time against the Buccaneers, they still were extremely well coached. Now you look at Johnny Morton and you look at his offense, I don't think they're well coached at all. I just don't. Like you look at it and they're making the mistakes, they're making this. Not great. And I'll flash this up here because Max he sent me something from Twitter. Lions are now 0 for 21 on 3rd and 10 plus this season, which is a joke. It's a joke, and I'll explain why right now. It is a joke for you to be 0 for on 3rd and 10 plus. Because let me explain this for you like you're dumb, like I'm dumb, or like someone that's listening, they could be dumb and they could figure this out too. Maybe John Morton's listening and he could figure this out too because it's common sense. You have so many good players. Laporta, St. Brown, JMO, Tesla, Gibbs. Would it kill you to have some crossers? Would it kill you to have like a play where it's a little bit risky, like a Statue of Liberty play? That could work. But Johnny Moe, when he gets into his 3rd and 10 and plus, and I go back and I watch the games and I tell you what happens is screen, draw. Like a lot of coaches do this. Actually, the one we played today, he's the most coach that does this a lot. Draw, screen. It's a conservative way to play. Matt LaFleur in Green Bay does the same thing. It's a conservative way to play, and if you're conservative, sometimes you get the results you get today. That's just what it is because you have to hit big plays in the game. And one of Johnny Morton's big things, this is going back to the season. Remember this. He wants sound decision making. Check. Explosive play. Excelling on 3rd downs. No. Pass play is 16 yards. That's a big play. Run is 11 plus yards. Point one and point one they excel at because they make decisions pretty well. The 2nd and the 3rd point they do not do really well, and that's just what it is. That's just what it is, and that's what Morton does. That is what Morton said that his identity of the football is on his offensive philosophy is sound decision making, explosive plays, excelling on 3rd down. 2 and 3 aren't there. They're just not there. Some more comments. Nate Evans, pathetic performance for everyone, including the coaches. I can't disagree with you at all. This was a pathetic performance from everyone. Everyone. And if you missed earlier in the podcast, I said, look, when you have Hutchinson missing tackles, no. When you have St. Brown dropping balls, no. That's not acceptable. When you have Jared Goff missing players that are wide open, that's not good. That's not going to help you out. When you have a player like when you have special teams make consistent mistakes, consistent problems, not making the right plays, allowing big plays. Like I said earlier, the farthest Minnesota had to go for a touchdown, their farthest drive of the day was a touchdown drive. Early in the game, it was to go up 14-7. They went 7 plays, 64 yards. They had a 14-yard run from Aaron Jones, a 6-yard pass to Aaron Jones. They had a 31-yard pass to Jordan Addison and a 7-yard touchdown pass to Hawkinson. So again, I will say this like I have the whole time. This game is strictly on everyone involved, from the coaches to Jared Goff to Hutchinson to St. Brown. This is a game you wear because with the schedule that's coming up, and I know that a lot of people know the schedule that's coming up, but you're going to be playing the Commanders next week. You're going to be playing the Eagles, the Giants, the Packers, the Cowboys. So get it together because this is a hard stretch. Now, everyone talked about how hard the first part of the schedule was. It was a hard part of the schedule. This whole schedule is hard. And when I did the schedule breakdown at the beginning of when we got the schedule, I said there's 17 winnable games, but there's also 17 winnable, losable games because every team on this graphic, every team on this schedule can get you. I mean, I look at a team like we might not be thinking much about the Giants, but they got a good defense. Okay. We might not be thinking about the Dallas Cowboys, but Dak Prescott's having an MVP season. We might not be thinking much about the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they are a pretty tough and rough team, and they beat the Indianapolis Colts today. So in today's NFL, there is no gimmies. There is no gimmies. So what the Lions have to do is wear this game and make sure it never happens again. You know, I think this game was similar to a T to the Commanders game. And just so happens they play the Commanders next. Awful loss. It's going to be beautiful because I don't expect I didn't expect the loss today, to be honest. But I don't expect them to lose in Washington. I don't expect them to lose in Washington. And I do expect, and I will tell you this right now, I think Brett Holmes is going to go make a trade. I don't think he's just going to make a soft trade. I think he's going to go make a big trade. It's my opinion. You know, you hear some of the people saying that the Lions have called around on Trey Henderson. They've called around on some guys. It's clear as they're going to be interested in making some moves. And so I look at this game and I go, holy crap. If I was Brett Holmes, I would be making a move tomorrow. Tuesday. You got 2 days left to the trade deadline. Maybe tonight you make a trade. But that's the way I think about it. But I think the Lions will make a big trade at the deadline because I think this is a game that you're going to look back on, and it's going to, like Jared Goff said, it's going to change a lot how you think. And it's either going to be good or it's going to be bad. Whatever the case it is, that's the way it goes. Just a disappointing loss today. I don't know how to really put it together. I think the 5 disappointing takeaways that they here's what I'll do. I said 5 disappointing takeaways, okay? I think my most disappointing thing about today's game was the special teams. Because again, they're giving up big plays. And again, like I said earlier, when 64 yards is the biggest drive for the Minnesota Vikings, and they were averaging 3.9 yards per pass, just really doesn't jive well for me, if you know what I'm saying. So I think that's a big one. Penalties were huge for me. I think this was a week 1 like performance, to be honest. And you know, we talked. It's funny because I remember we had the third quarter. Remember, the third quarter was always the one that was just absolutely terrible. Well, Lions' third down is now third down because they cannot get it together on third down, and that's again on Coach Morton. Now this guy, he loves to go in his lab. I'll play it again.
I just love the whole aspect of just sitting in my laboratory by my.
So go to your freaking lab, sit down with a beer, and go do something. Like you're really pissing me off, brother. You're really pissing me off. Go do something. Go make the offense better. Do something. You talk about all these weapons. You talk about going in your lab and dissecting defenses. Only thing you can just dissect right now is absolutely nothing. You have an offense that should easily be scoring more than they're scoring, better on third down. They should be way better on third down, and you're just not doing enough. So go to your laboratory, like you just said.
I just love the whole aspect of just sitting in my laboratory by myself.
So you love the laboratory. Go sit there, think about what you're doing, and I don't want you coming out for the next 3 days. Take some beers in there. Take some, take some dude wipes in there. Do whatever you need to do. Dissect something. Sick of it. This whole garbage about I love dissecting defenses. Bullshit. You haven't dissected nothing because the third down defense is absolute ass. So go dissect something. And I think third down is a big issue. And I think that even going before third down, with the amount of times that they have to go on third down, like today they went on third down 17 times. That speaks to what you're doing before third down. You're being way too conservative for my liking. Way too conservative. Now, Ben Johnson, I give him credit here. He was aggressive as hell. Sometimes too aggressive to my liking. But geez, oh Pete's, man. Go do something. Coach Suss been suspect of Morton all season long, and I gotta blame him for going away from Laporta. We had 5 and number 0 on the field at the same time. Goff has no protection, gets sacked. That brings up a good point. I really thought it was absolutely just disrespectful. Not disrespectful, but it was absolute a lack of effort from Jameer Gibbs' part on that passing block that he put on when Jared Goff got sacked. He just put his shoulder into him. Like, put your shoulder into him. That's a linebacker, dude. You're not putting his shoulder into him and stopping him. Like, calm the hell down, dude. Like, that's just so stupid. What they did, so stupid. Like, stop being like that. Don't block like that. Like, you're from Alabama. You don't block like that. You don't block like that. That's a lot of people ask, why is Jameer Gibbs not on the field on certain plays? That is why. That is why. And when Coach Campbell sees that, he is gonna lose his shit. I guarantee you. Because that was a half-ass effort. It was a bullshit block, and he didn't do enough to get that guy. Victor says O-line regressed and Johnny Moe isn't the answer. You know what? Johnny Moe might not be the answer, but the O-line, they've regressed, I think, especially at the center position, which we all knew was going to be the case. Unfortunately, fortunately, the trade deadline is tomorrow. Tuesday. So they could make a trade to bolster themselves, especially with Mahogany out. And if I was Brad Holmes, I would talk to New Orleans. And I know that there's a couple players that are up for the trade deadline, which Cameron Jordan and Carl Granderson. But I would ask about Eric McCoy. And maybe you move Glasgow over, and then you figure it out from there. But it's a lot of moving parts, to be honest. All right, let's go back to the comments. Trenton says it'll all come down to Thanksgiving between the Lions and the Packers. Easily. To win the NFC North, I think that's the game it's going to come down to. When we talk about Thanksgiving and the Lions usually laying an egg on Thanksgiving, this is a game that you cannot lay an egg on. And I think the most important part about this schedule coming up is you cannot lose ground to the Packers, period. You gave up today's game, but you got 3 games before Green Bay where you're going to have to absolutely play your ass off. There's no time for bad plays, because if you have a bad offensive line game against Giants, you're going to have a rough time. Okay? Just putting it out there. They played some pretty good football, and they got a damn good defensive line. But again, this schedule doesn't get any easier, and this game is going to be a wake-up call, I hope, for the offense, and I hope it's for Johnny Morton, because he, like I said, he loves to go in the lab, and he likes to do his thing, and just hasn't been good enough. We have Oh, BJ, really good. Really missed Ragnar's ability to identify the blitz. Goff is good, but it seems he struggles to ID coverage and blitz pickups at time. BJ, this is a top. This is probably the top comment of the day. Top comment of the day. You know, I think this is the biggest portion of what this team has been able to do. And up until this point, is when you talk about a guy like Brian Flores, he mixes blitzes in there. And when a guy like Frank Ragnow's in there, he's able to identify the blitz, saying, "Oh, this guy's coming. We know he's coming," and he'll identify the blitz. Graham Glasgow doesn't seem to be the same type of on-field communicator. So again, it's going to come down to a couple things: how you're going to rebound off this, but how you're going to rebound, and how is Glasgow going to get better at center? Because I don't think you can really change the fact that Glasgow cannot identify the blitz as good as right now, but we didn't expect him to identify the blitz as good as right now. Right now was elite at that, one of the best in the NFL, and I think that's something that we're going to look back on after the season and say, yeah, that was a pretty big portion of that. But you could still do some stuff and win the Super Bowl with this team, but you can't play like you played today, and you can't play like you played against the Buccaneers. I think those are two games where it's the cracks are starting to show for Johnny Moe. You know what I'm saying? So that's what they got to do. Barry says, blown opportunity with the Packers loss. Absolutely. Absolutely. Mayank, one of our mins on the page. I love Mayank. He's a good man. Great man. Maybe the best man. Good. Got to make a move for the offensive line. I think the defense will be fine once they get off the field more often. Mac, let me just put this here. I have no problems with the defense. I really don't. I think they can get better at pass rush. I think that's something that Brad Holmes is going to explore at the trade deadline, if there's a move available, because when the time to pressure is one of the highest in the league. I think that's where they're kind of struggling. I think Brad Holmes sees that statistic, and he wants to get to the passer earlier. So I think that's where it is. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do in terms of offensive line, because you can't just make a trade to make a trade. There's not many offensive linemen in the NFL that are good. I mean, we see teams all over the NFL. I mean, you could turn on the NFL right now. Look at the Chiefs. I mean, they need good offensive linemen, but it's just the way it goes. Offensive linemen are becoming, to find good offensive linemen, it's a sad state of affairs in the NFL. I'll tell you that right now. Very sad state of affair. Barry says, especially when Campbell said before the bye he had to clean up special teams and third down up. Yeah, I didn't see that. Did not see that. It's clean special teams up. They gave up some big plays today. Block kick. Whatever. I mean, that's on Dan Campbell. That's on that coaching staff. Like, we could sit here all day long and talk about what Campbell said before the bye, but we see what we saw today in terms of the coach, in terms of the players. They all deserve blame for this loss. This was a disappointing, embarrassing loss today, because like I said before, when you look at this team stats, yards per play, Detroit had more yards per play than the Minnesota Vikings. They should have won this game just based on that. They had more yards per pass by 1.8 yards, okay? But still they couldn't win the game. It just goes to show you that it doesn't matter when you give a team ample opportunities down the field to make plays, and you give them short fields, you're going to be in a real hurt. And special teams needs to be cleaned up. And this is something we haven't seen under Dave Phipp. We have not seen Dave Phipp and this special teams be this bad, but we're seeing it now. That's not good enough. Trenton says Gibbs is not the pass protector like Montgomery. No, I think a lot of people always ask this question. I think it's like, just watch the game. But when you watch the game and people are like, why is Gibbs not in the game on a third down? Well, Gibbs is not a great pass protector. He's just not. It's like, it is what it is. He's a great runner, but you got to be able to pass protect, and that's the main thing. Is the main thing, pass protection. And when you put a half-ass block like you did on Aaron Wilson, and he gets a sack, that's a joke, dude. That's an absolute joke. And I hope that the coaches see that because they will, and they just light his ass up because that was an embarrassing block. That was an embarrassing block. That was not good. Jeremy says the team was completely lost today. Did we do anything on our bye week? And I gotta tell you, man, they came out lost. They came out horrible. I got the statistics of what they were, what uh, what it was in the first half. Let me go to these statistics because I think these will put a damper on it. At halftime, they had 124 total yards and 30 plays. Not gonna get it done. They were 2 for 8 on third down. Not gonna get it done. In the first quarter, they were 1 for 4. They had 84 total yards. They were averaging 5.6 yards per play. Not good enough, but they were not good at all. They didn't even make it to the red zone up until the in the first quarter, and then the second half, again, it just wasn't good enough. This was, again, like I said earlier, the 64-yard drive that Minnesota had. That was our longest drive of the game, and that was a joke too. Green Bay plays the Eagles next week, and yeah, you know what? That's a huge game. If the Eagles can win that game, that'll be huge. But the Packers didn't look good today. The Eagles didn't look good, a couple weeks ago. So this is an interesting time for the Lions because, again, the schedule that we got coming up here is not for the wicked. Not for the wicked. Look at Washington, Eagles, Giants, Green Bay, and Dallas. I caution people to overlook anybody on this schedule now because of what they did today. That just shows you exactly where we're going. Maximilian Sharp says, I see a trade for an offensive lineman. Campbell might need to start making calls. Do you think Goff should be able to make calls at the line? I'm sure Goff has the capability of making calls at the line. A lot of people talk about trading for an offensive lineman. The only issue I have there is what offensive linemen are available and what offensive linemen can you get that are an upgrade over what you have right now. Because we look at across the league and we look at the Green Bay, we look at the Chiefs. They've needed offensive linemen for years. We've looked at the Bengals. They need guys. The Giants, I mean, their offensive line is pretty hit or miss. Look across the league. Like, we think we're bad. There's teams in a lot worse shape, including in Philadelphia. Like, they're in Philadelphia, their line's coming back to the forefront too. So it's an interesting time in the NFL because I don't think there's one overwhelmingly great offensive line right now. I feel like today's answer just gave an answer to all future opponents on how to beat us. Well, here's the issue. There's special teams. If your special teams is bad like this all the time and you only have to go 64 yards on your longest drive of the game, you'll win every game possible. You'll lose out. Just the way it is. So special teams has to be a lot better. Period. I think that's, when you look at that, but when you look at the way that their offense played, Detroit's offense played today, they gained the yards needed. Again, their third down percentage is not good. So third down is where you can beat the Detroit Lions. And that needs to be better from the coaching staff. Honestly, I think we need to secure a guard position next to Graham to help the young guys, help two young guys not helping Joe Batanio. See, the problem is it's a center. So the only center that's available that may be available is maybe Eric McCoy for the Saints. And even that's a stretch. I mean, Tay Ratledge and Mahogany are playing pretty good, but Mahogany is going to be out for a while. So it's going to be interesting to see what they need to do. Problem with most teams that need the offensive linemen have mobile quarterbacks. That's a thing that a lot of people will say, but you need offensive linemen. And mobile quarterbacks only matter so much because what happens is if they're getting pressure up the middle in the interior of your offensive line, Lamar Jackson struggles with that. You have guys like that all release struggle with it. So if you're getting pressured up the middle, that's a quarterback's worst fear. They don't want you coming in the pocket, and they don't want to go out there. So it is what it is. Trent says penalties really hurt us today. Absolutely, they did. Penalties were terrible, and that's the way it goes. Max says, I love you too. And I understand defense needs to get past earlier, but honestly, offensive line is a desperate need. I think everyone is now hurt except Glasgow, which puts you in a bind. And it'll be interesting to see how they approach the trade deadline. Does this change anything? But again, who is available? That's the question. I think a lot of teams are looking to upgrade their offensive linemen, but who is available? That's the main question. Barry says this is worse than a game one loss. This is worse than the game one loss because it's worse from the Green Bay game because of two reasons and two reasons only, Barry. One, you're coming off the bye, and two, you're at home. That's why it's worse than the game one loss. That is why it's worse. And I agree with you 100%. It's worse than the game one loss because of those two things just right there. Bye and home. You were home and you were off the bye. No excuse to lose. None. But you lose and you're in this spot again. Nick says Lions more yards, but a turnover that led to points, bad special teams, 10 penalties, plus losing at the line scrimmage. You can't establish run and become one-dimensional is how you lose. Great synopsis. Great synopsis, Nick. Because that is how you lose. You know, you don't just lose in the NFL with a team, like I said earlier in the podcast. The Vikings' longest drive of the game was 64 yards. 64 yards. You put that in perspective. Detroit's first touchdown was 72. Okay. Detroit's second touchdown was only 35 yards. They had to go. So they tied the game right there. But you gave them multiple chances, and even the touchdown that the Lions scored at the end of the game, 5 plays, 69 yards. That was their long. That was the Vikings only had to go 64 yards to score 27 points. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Trent says the thing with Goff, he doesn't do good in cold weather games. That will be coming up quick. I'll pull the statistics up, but Jared Goff in cold weather games, it's not as bad as people make it out to be. Let me just do this. I'm gonna look it up for you. Maybe I'll find it. But I believe in cold weather games he's a lot better than people think. So let me see if I can pull this up. But I think he's a lot better than people give him credit for. But again, whatever we want to say about the cold weather games, they need to play better. And the third down is where the Lions need to play better. So it doesn't matter about the cold weather games. It just matters how they play. In games where the air temperature was 39 or colder, Jared Goff's career totals 224 completions, 394 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 9 receptions for his career. In nine career regular season games in December in cold weather climates, a completion rate of 56%, 1,900 yards, 9 touchdowns, 9 receptions. That's not that great. In 2 career games with kickoff temperature below freezing, Goff was 0-2 against the spread, 0 touchdowns. So it's very hit or miss, but there's a lot of people. And obviously, you're going to have reduced efficiency in the cold weather. That's the way that the cold weather works. Nick P says this is great. This is a great comment from him. Not too many teams can replicate what Minnesota and Flores does. Nagy sends blitz similar to Flores, and even Green Bay DC aggressive, causing problems for young O-line. And you're right. Again, it just goes to show you, like, when you play like you did today, you're going to lose games that you shouldn't lose. And I thought this game was a prime example of that. So, like I said, this game one loss that they had against Green Bay, that was bad. But this game today was worse. And we could sit here all day long and talk about what the reasons were. But the reality of the situation is, like, you gave them many chances off of special teams. Like Nick P said, this was a great comment right here. Lions more yards, but a turnover that led to points. Bing. Bad special teams, 10 penalties. The 5 were first downs. 5 that they had were first downs. Plus, losing at the line of scrimmage where you can't establish a run and you become one-dimensional is how you lose. And I agree 100%. 100% of what Nick P said. Exactly what he said is the reason the Lions lost. And the Lions had more yards. They had more chances. But they only got in the red zone 3 times. The Vikings got in the red zone 5 times. And out of those 5 times, you gifted it to them. You gifted it to them. So that's what I look at right there. But before we head out, there is 4 injury updates. Let me just put these out for you. Mahogany suffered what was officially called a knee injury that after his leg whipped around a hit a Vikings player. Campbell said Mahogany is going to be out for a while, for a long time probably, Campbell said. Campbell did provide a little bit of optimism when asked if Mahogany's injury was season-ending. Maybe not that long, but it'll be talking about late December, probably. Tate Ratledge had a shoulder injury. Dan Campbell said Ratledge came back in, but we'll see. Campbell did point to their depth along the offense line, something they may have to lean on. Taylor Decker, the Lions' left tackle, rolled up and he got rolled up on in that game. It seemed like a lot of that was on passing situations, Decker said, on offensive line injuries. So that's just a lot of bodies, a lot of twists and stunts laying around, and just a lot of bodies around feet and stuff like that. So he didn't really say that he was hurt or something. And then the last one was Penei Sewell. We'll see where Decker is at, Sewell, how they feel. Campbell said they'll have to see how Decker and Sewell come out of how they're feeling. We've got some guys in the hopper. Skip played first day. We got Tristan Colin, Ayoshika. We've got Michael Neese on the vet squad. Campbell says so we got some guys. We'll do what we have to do. If we have to fill those in, those guys will be ready to go. So just like the Lions, they always have a really good feel of where they're gonna go. So that's the interesting part right there. Couple comments before we go. Morton's play calling seems too predictable. Currently, in my opinion, they seem to be predicted most of the Russian plays and completely shut us out of that aspect. You're completely right. It's predictable. It's disgusting. And if you go back on the podcast, I went off a little bit on Johnny Morton because he likes to go to the lab. He loves to go to the lab. And
I just love the whole aspect of just sitting in my laboratory by myself and
go sit in the laboratory by yourself, scheme up something good, because lately you have not been scheming up anything good, and then go do something. Show us. You said they had all these weapons.
The one thing that's impressed me is all these weapons.
So do something about it. Pisses me off. I would rather have seen the Lions amp up on defense and trade deadline to help Hutch. I agree with you 100%. And like I said, that time to pressure, they're one of the lowest in that scheme. I think just go improve the defense because I think you're going to have to lean on the defense in the playoffs. That's my opinion right there. Scoring no points on the only turnover killed us too. Exactly. They gave us a chance to get back in the game and we didn't take it. Shame on us. Shame on us. All right. We are going to see you guys in the next podcast. We talk more Detroit Lions football here on the Detroit Lions News Podcast. We will see you probably Tuesday when we do the trade deadline recap. Hopefully we have some trade deadlines to talk about, some trades to talk about. But we'll see you here on the Detroit Lions News podcast. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we will see you on the next podcast. Thank you for watching.